Hello and welcome to another coloring video. In this video I will be coloring a character that is known as Velvela, created by the user RakkuGuy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it is a character that I discovered a couple of years ago, and then recently, now that I've been drawing a lot, I've been looking for things to draw, and I end up drawing this character quite frequently. This particular image that I'm currently working on is from a backlog of at least a couple months ago at this point, but because it takes so long to color, because I don't have any free time anymore, I'm now working on it, and this particular image is quite special because for this image, normally when I draw, I have a reference image, like something I'm looking at to like get the a character's like face on model, or like something like a pose that I'm trying to do. This image was different because this was the first image that I drew in this new segment of drawing all the time where I didn't have a reference image. And this was completely drawn from my memory of like, I know what this character looks like. I don't need a reference image. I want to try and draw this character completely from memory. Hence, why it doesn't look exactly like RakkuGuy's version, or it doesn't look exactly on model. That is because I drew this completely from my memory. So as I stated, this is the character Velvela, created by the RakkuGuy as a character that I just particularly latched onto and I really enjoyed, and I really have fun drawing her, and it gives me an excuse to like branch out into different poses. I really like this character. I don't know, something about her design, and I guess I've always had like this weird affinity for fictional characters, where for anyone who knows me, they know that I really love cartoons. I've always loved things that were animated and drawn, and I've always had this like love of cartoons and drawing cartoon-like characters. Hence why I don't really go for a realistic style when I draw more of a cartoony style. The proportions of the body may not be exactly correct for like this person existing in real life, but it doesn't have to, because it's more of a cartoony look at things, and I have a very good eye for cartooning. But I guess one of the reasons I really like this character is because we don't really know much about it. And another thing, if you know me, is that I love to create characters and stories all the time. When I am not at work or sleeping or at the gym and I have any free time, even if it means cooking dinner or something, I will always be creating and working on a story. Not like to write down or even remember, and I go through multiple stories a day sometimes, but it's just a little story to pass the time. You know, I do superhero stories, I do all sorts of different types of stories, usually focused around superheroes. But I also really enjoy just exploring different characters. However, most characters that I introduce usually end up becoming a lot like me, and the way I process information and the way I think about things. And so, when you have a character who already has a design that I like and is aesthetically pleasing to look at, and then you don't really have much of a character to go off of, the only things we really know about Velvela, based on the images and comic that RakkuGuy has put out, is that she's a fighter, she's embarrassed by like romantic stuff, and she likes to work out. That's not really much of a like character, that's just more of a personality type. And, you know, me loving characters and loving to create characters and always creating characters that end up like me in the end at some capacity. Because it's like, that's how I would think in their shoes. Here you have this almost completely blank slate that I can then project onto, which makes me then love the character even more, because now this is, yes, it looks like the character he created. This is what he envisioned for it. But because he hasn't really shared that with anyone, it's left open to interpretation of what do you want this character to be like. And therefore, I can fill it in with what I think, and then it just grows and grows and grows from there. I've done this with a lot of other characters as well, besides Velvela. Another example is Plague of Gripes' Shure, or I don't know how he, like Cherry or something, or I don't know how he pronounces it, but it's a Saiyan girl that he created, and it was another one of those almost blank slate characters with little images and maybe a comic that gets a feel for their personality, and I just grab that and run in another direction with it and make my own story. And they probably wouldn't actually act that way, and I'm sure they have their own unique personalities that Plague and RakkuGuy created in their minds. But since we as the viewing audience don't really know any of that, it's kind of like our interpretation of the character. As I talked about in my last coloring video, I recently discovered how to get higher quality images than what I was currently exporting. See, for the long time, I was working with JPEG images, and I wanted to, basically every time I finished coloring for the day, I would just export it over, like overwrite the picture that I already had, or export to a new picture, and it would just be a JPEG, and hence why if a project lasted a couple of days, you'd get that grittiness that I talked about in the first part of episode 5. Oh, I don't care that it's all this JPEG-ly color because it's a gringy kind of guy. But then I learned literally like a day later how to get higher quality images to export out of GIMP. And I knew it was possible. I knew I just wasn't doing it right. And then I did it, and I was just like, well, here we go. We got it. We got the PNG images. We don't have to have all that like weird pixelization going on with the colors. I can keep the actual colors that I want. As you'll see with the final product of this video, I got the colors that I wanted, and it ended up looking pretty good. Obviously, I'm still limited by my way of coloring electronically. I still use the trackpad on my computer, and, my own artistic ability of, I've done 3 colors, lights, base, and shadows. Because again, I go for that more cartoony look. There's no, mixing of colors. There is the base color, there is the shadows that are cast, from an object or a curve, and then there is the light that is directly hitting the object. And that is how I color my images. You'll see some of these ridiculously good art pieces with, 8 or 10 or 20 different tones for one area. And they look incredible. But if you don't know how to do that, and I do not, you just end up just mixing colors and spending hours trying to fix something that you end up not really changing all that much. It's like when I look at an image that has all these different colors working together, I'm thinking, that's amazing. But I don't actually think to myself, okay, now how do you do that? When I'm sitting down and actually coloring, it's not a, how do I do that? It's more of a, man, I did this, and I got this. That doesn't, that looks good together, but it doesn't do the other amazing thing that I saw the other day. It's more of a, okay, well, what works for me? And you can get some pretty amazing art with tricolor, paintings as well. You don't need to do all the crazy mixings. You can have these 3 colors for, one particular area, and you can still end up with a really good piece of art. It's just, I'm currently limited by my own knowledge, my own experience, and my own technology. Speaking of the difficulties of the technology that I'm currently using, I don't know if you've ever tried to draw a circle or a curve with the trackpad, but my God, it is challenging. It's not completely impossible, but it is challenging. And there are a lot of curves in this design. There's a lot of straight lines as well. And since the lines are straight longer than the image or whatever that I'm currently using, that is also challenging because, as I explained in one of the other parts, that trying to draw a straight line doesn't work very well on a trackpad because you have to move your finger to get the whole line straight. But then also making a curve doesn't work because you have to match the angle of the curve, and when you're doing it, you either get a line that's too straight or too curved. It's very difficult on a trackpad to get those movements the way you want. I have been thinking of getting a drawing tablet or something of equivalent so that it's I can actually draw directly into the computer. And I know that's how most artists online do it now. I know, for instance, just to name a few, Butch Hartman does that for his YouTube channel. I know that the Drawfee guys, the college humor drawing channel, they use the tablet and the pens and all the styluses and whatnot. I'm pretty sure that Plague of Gripes does as well. In fact, I'm almost 100% sure that every professional artist on YouTube has a drawing tablet, and that's how they do their colors and everything, unless they specifically made a piece in person with colored pencils or paints or what have you. I'm sure there is no one out there doing what I'm doing, drawing with a trackpad on a computer, just hunched over, trying to get these stupid lines to do what you want. I'm sure no one who's a professional in the field is currently doing that. But speaking of drawing tablets, they are pretty expensive, and at the moment, I'm currently, working full-time, trying to pay off my student loans, and just trying to, live. And I don't know if a drawing tablet would be a good investment at the moment, and I just keep struggling with what I'm doing. Because I also don't know if getting a drawing tablet would help increase the tempo at which I can get these images out. Because right now, because of my limited schedule, I can only really work on these on my days off. And this project that I'm currently working on in front of you took about 5 hours on or off the whole thing over the course of a couple of weeks. I don't know if a drawing tablet would increase that speed and be able to work even faster, because I'm not currently struggling with the lines every single time, and I can actually draw, because I drew the curves to begin with, I drew the straight lines to begin with. I don't know if being able to draw directly into the computer would cut down on that time, or just make it the same, or just make the lines cleaner. I don't know what the drawing tablet would actually do for me. And it's one of those, I can't really ask anyone I know, because no one else I know does art on a serious level. And I don't really know if what I'm doing really is a step in the right direction. I don't know if it would be worth the money. If anyone who stumbles across this video knows anything about that whole art world and drawing tablets, and I'd be happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on that. And if you do think I should invest in a drawing tablet, I'd also like to know what kinds of tablets I should get, because I've heard a lot of horror stories of certain tablets that don't connect to the computer all the time, and they don't work, and so it's you have to balance out that cheap enough that I can afford it or get it as a gift, or expensive enough that it doesn't crap out on me and actually works when I need it to. So I'd be happy to hear what you guys had to say and what you think about all that. If you've noticed, most of my art videos that have been coming out have been mostly the coloring videos, and not so much in the drawing department. I believe I only have 2 actual drawing videos. Is Remy Cormo from Pack Street and May Borowski from Night in the Woods. And the reason I don't draw on the channel very often is because while I am drawing every day, and it would be, like, it makes sense to have a bunch of videos that could come up, like, every, like, you know, couple of days just to see what I'm drawing kind of thing, the problem I run into is that I can't ever set up the camera correctly. That no matter where I seem to set up the camera to record, it always seems like my shoulder somehow drifts into the frame and is like, oh, that's a nice video you're making there. It'd be a shame if people could actually see what's going on because you've blocked the whole camera with your arm. If I had, like, you know, an actual drawing table or someone to help me set up the camera when I wanted to do that, that would be fine. But again, most of my drawing is just like on a whim, hey, I'm going to draw right now. And even if I set all that up, there's a 90% chance that my shoulder would just be blocking the whole thing because I don't know how to set it up in such a way that it's like, because it's like the way where I sit to draw is at a regular desk. And it's like there's no real good place to put the camera so that you could see the drawing and actually see what's going on and that I wouldn't be in the way somehow. In the future, if I do get a drawing tablet, like I mentioned, I might do more drawing videos on that. So it's like I'm not necessarily drawing on paper like the first 2 drawing videos, but it's like you could actually see my design making process, and it's like how I draw these characters that I come up with and how I get from of the idea, like the concept and drawing it out to actually coloring it. Because it's like the coloring videos I've been doing, and like for this segment and the other couple, is that it's like you don't really see the design process. You just see me coloring. 5 hours condensed down to like 20 minutes. And I feel like if I had a drawing tablet or some kind of way to video myself actually drawing this out, I feel like it would give a better idea of my design process, and that would probably be more interesting than just watching me color something for, like, again, 5 hours condensed down. Like, the Drawfee guys, like I mentioned earlier, the interesting part of their videos isn't them coloring the thing, because it just kind of, they draw the thing throughout the video, and then at the end it fades into the fully colored image. Because the interesting part isn't the coloring, because coloring is just boring. I mean, it looks great when it's done, but the process of getting there is just kind of boring. And unless you're actively looking for something to, like a guide to go by, it's the design process and actually drawing the characters that is the more interesting way of doing it. So, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the eyes. The eyes have always been probably the most important part of any character drawings that I do. And getting the eyes correct, like the look in the eye correct. The shape, the coloration, the intensity of the eyes is always the most important part to me. Because when I'm meeting people and when I talk to people, the eyes are what always stick out to me. I always look right at their eyes, I always like take in every detail, and I always like see like what they, like try to like see what they see kind of thing. To me, the eyes are always the most important part. We tell a lot with our eyes. We tell, like, you can get a lot of personality just from the eyes. And I wanted to convey a motion of intense, but also relaxed, if that makes sense. Because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, we don't really have much in the way of her personality, but what we do know is that she has an intense personality. She's a fighter. She likes to, like, get right to the point. She's always, like, ready to go kind of thing. And I wanted to capture that, but also show that she is relaxed. She's just standing in this, like, field. And that's really what I wanted to, like, capture here. The other thing, when drawing the eyes, is that I always like to try to get some shadows and the little light shines in there, like the little anime like light dots. And I have been told by several people that the eyes are usually the best part of my drawings. And I don't know if that's a compliment, but I take it as a compliment because that's the part I usually work the hardest on. If the eyes don't look right, the whole like face looks off and the whole like expression looks off. And it's like, no matter what you were originally trying to portray, if the eyes don't match the body, you're gonna have a weird image. So, thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, leave a like to let me know. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any ideas that you'd like me to act upon, like I said, the thoughts on the drawing tablet, thoughts on characters you'd want me to draw, or things you'd want me to see color, or I don't know, whatever you guys are interested in, just let me know and I will get on it as soon as I possibly can. I am pretty busy when I want to be. Other times I'm just too lazy or procrastinating to actually get started. But thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next part. Take care.